Thankfully, you've already got a draft of Ethan, and you're doing edits when they're telling you of all the monstrous ways that children's authors behave. So you've already got a draft. You're good there. How long did that draft take you to compose?
The first draft only took me 6 weeks, but it was because, like I said, I was in this like very magical little village. Our house actually later on was used as like a set for a TV show called Grantchester, which was the name of the town we lived in, which is based on a series of books about a detective, or about a priest who becomes a detective in the 1950s. So it's like very picturesque, like exactly what, as an American, you would envision like a quaint British village to be. And so I was really like it was a very inspiring setting in which to be a writer. And there's a long history of writers who have written in Grantchester, but I had nothing else to kind of anchor myself to. And so I was very deliberate in making sure that like every day I wrote a certain amount of words to keep myself accountable to that story, and to make sure that I would actually finish it before I gave myself enough time that I would start to second guess it and, you know, wonder like, who was I to think that I could write this story, and the story was stupid anyway. So I wrote it in kind of a whirlwind, like sitting in this like teeny tiny office that we carved out of our little cottage, looking out the back window at our like ancient crumbling shed, through a window that was like the original like 19th century glass panes, and there were like holes like this big that we had to like poke plastic bags through to keep the spiders from coming in. So yeah, it was like really
jealous of this incredible writing, picturesque setting that you had in my mind until then. Oh, never mind. They stayed away from the spiders.
Well, I don't know if you know this about the UK. Doesn't have like any large, like dangerous predators. I guess they have badgers, but they have spiders, like enormous spiders that come into their homes. In the same way that like in the South we have cockroaches that come into our houses, but they're ginormous and they're just an accepted part of life there. Like they just call them house spiders. And they're monstrous. They look like something out of like the Amazon or something. So it was something to get used to, but a small price to pay to get to live where we did.
House spiders. Nope, I'm out. Forget it. So, okay, so you get that done in 6 weeks. You keep the house spiders off your manuscript. You get it all composed. Then how many revisions are you going through with this first novel? How long does it take you before, and then what's the path to publication?
Yeah, I would say I probably went through 8 or so drafts before I felt like it was ready to send out to agents. You know, getting people from my MFA program to read it, to give me feedback on it was super helpful. And then when I was ready to look for an agent, I wasn't sure because I was an American living in the UK, and the UK has a completely different set of children's literature and, you know, any kind of literary agent. And so I wasn't sure like who I should be querying. And I found this agency called Greenhouse that was transatlantic. So they're based in London, but they had a US office as well. And so I thought like, that seems like a really good fit. So I sent them a query, and Polly Nolan, who was the UK part of that agency, got back to me, and she said, I really love this. Can you come in to meet me so we can chat about it? And I was like, obviously totally thrilled. And at the same time, I had been invited to do an internship with a children's book packager called Working Partners. So packagers are like people who come up with plots for books and send them off to find writers to write. the plots that we come up with, and then we sell them to the publisher, but the author's name goes on it. So it's like a really collaborative process, more like a group of people writing a TV show than a traditional kind of solo author journey. And so I was starting this internship in London, and I was really excited because it was my first like publishing gig. And when Polly emailed me to ask me to come in for the interview, I noticed that her address was the same address as the book packager. And I was so like ignorant about anything to do with publishing that at that point I was like, oh, this is the publishing building in London. Like this is where all of the children's publishing takes place. So it makes total sense that they're in the same building. And so I said like, oh, okay, well, this is great. Like I'm actually doing an internship in the same area, so I can come in, you know, on Wednesday or whatever. So we arranged a meeting. It was great. And then I showed up for the first day of this internship, and the elevator doors opened, and it was like an open concept space. And there was like a little sign first thing when you stepped off the elevator that said all the names of the companies that worked in that office. And it turns out that Working Partners, the book packager, and Greenhouse, the literary agent, are under the same umbrella company. So they're part of the same company. And as my intern manager comes to get me and we walk through the office, I'm starting to realize like, oh, like Polly and Sarah, who was the other agent, like they could be here somewhere, and like I'm just showing up in their space. And finally Rosie, the internship coordinator, she was like, let's see, where can we put you? Oh, Polly's desk is free today. And I was just frozen in horror, but I didn't want to say, I didn't know how to communicate to Rosie like what the situation was. And so I just like sank into this desk, and I was like, she's going to come in and she's going to find me like sitting in her desk, and she's going to flip out because she's going to think that I have like stalked her here. And so the first thing I did at my very first publishing internship was write Polly and Sarah an email from Polly's computer to say, by the way, I'm at your desk right now. I'm so sorry. It's a monumental coincidence. I'm not stalking you. Please don't think I'm crazy and cancel our meeting on Wednesday. And they emailed right back, and they were so lovely and great about it, and we all got a kick out of it. But it was just one of those like kismet moments. And I still work part-time for Working Partners, and I signed with Polly and Sarah like almost immediately because I just knew that they were the right fit. But like, yeah, it was a moment.
That sounds incredibly convenient, and I should shamelessly plug that Sarah Davies has a 7-question interview available at middlegradeninja.com, esteemed audience. As soon as you're through listening to our conversation, all the brilliant things we're going to continue to say, by God, head over there, check out that interview. It'll tell you everything you need to know. So while you're working for the book packager, are you able to stop by? I mean, their desks are right there. Sometimes you're sitting at them. Are you able to see them sending off your book to publishers and get a daily debrief before you leave every day? Or do you never make eye contact in the hopes that it won't be weird? How do you manage that?
Yeah, like we went into a conference room and they offered me representation, and like I had been counseled beforehand, like don't accept an offer on the spot because you need to go and think about it. And there were a couple of other agents that I was still talking with. And so they made the offer, and I said, thank you very much. Can I think about it? And they said, yes. And then we all walked back into the same office, and I sat down at the computer across from Sarah and pretended to work until my lunch break. And then I went downstairs and got on the phone to my husband and like screamed, like they offered me representation. So that was probably the funniest moment that we had. But no, it was great. Obviously, I'm not in London anymore, but for the time that I was there, like it was really cool to be able to see them when they came into the office, because it felt like we were colleagues, and like I got to know them on a different level than you do just sending emails back and forth about manuscripts and whatnot. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that connection, and as you said, like quite convenient.
Of course, they're still representing you now that you're back here in the States.
Yes, Polly has left the agency to do her own thing, but Sarah is still my beloved agent. And the other great thing about it is that she can never ghost me because we're on the same email listservs at work. So it's all good. Not that she ever would. She's lovely, and you should definitely read her interview because she's very wise.
So what happens next then? They're able to get the book sold, and then you immediately start writing the other 5. How does your life change?
Yes, so they managed to sell Ethan in a 2-book deal. We had quite a few offers. And I remember the moment that we got the final offer from Allison Day, who was my editor at HarperCollins. Sarah called me during intermission of the play Rebecca, which I'd taken my parents to see while they were in town visiting me. And she knew that I was going to be at this play, and she called me specifically when she figured an intermission might be to tell me what their offer was. And it was a really cool moment to be able to have that, like, with my family, who I wasn't seeing very often at that point because they were so far away. And so we accepted that offer. It was a 2-book deal. Ethan was a really smooth road from there, I think, because I was very conscious that like I needed to be putting my best foot forward with this book. I was not under any illusions about publishing being like an easy industry to be in or to break into. I had done most of the hard work before it ever saw an editor's desk.